Welcome to David Institute Premium Masterclass Podcast Discussion captioned Daniel's Astronomical Rise to the Unseen Realms.
Somehow he knew that God had put this gift in him. I don't know how he knew. Maybe it was an audible voice he heard from God, but he knew that God had given that gift of interpreting of dreams. Whether there were some times whereby some things that happened that's not recorded, that,
It must have. There must have been something that happened before this time that made Daniel to try this gift he has.
Yes, yeah.
And even the way he answered the king is the same way Joseph answered the king. He made it clear that it's not my wisdom, and there was no way it's of. And it's funny enough, the people said it that no man can interpret it. So king,
Only the gods.
Only the gods. So king, don't assume that because at the end of the day, to still tell you that it was strange, when Daniel finished, it was so strange. They still burnt incense to Daniel. The king worshipped Daniel. Of course, because
it's only the gods that
can do that. And because of this passage, I went on to listen a little bit about what interaction Daniel had with Nebuchadnezzar. And there was a day Nebuchadnezzar told Daniel some dreams, and Daniel knew the interpretation. The interpretation meant that the king was going to be sent into the wild because he doubted God. And Daniel was now at par with the king. They were a rapport. They were close friends. And Daniel said, well, it's as if this is supposed to be to your enemies, that they should be dethroned and go to the animals. And the king felt that Daniel didn't want to tell him the interpretation. And then they didn't want to really. But Daniel had to. And he went, and when he finished, 7 years of being a wild animal, he came back and he still worshipped the God of Daniel. What was quite strange is Daniel, remember that he started off interestingly going to God to pray and then coming to interpret. But the guy now went into the realm of the spirit and positioned himself there and now began to interact with the angels that were responsible for revealing some of these things to him, either in the dream or in vision. Of course, we could see that happen in the life of Joseph with Mary about living when Jesus was born. But when you look at Daniel, he has an improvement the same way Joseph in Egypt has an improvement. Joseph started dreaming. He went into interpretation of dreams. He now went into solutions to the interpretation of the dreams. That is another level. Daniel had visions. He went into prayers to understand the revelation to the answers. Now Daniel went into the realm of the spirit and he stayed there to have a consistent communication with the realm of the spirit. So at every given time Daniel is called, something strange happens. I want you to imagine that. The day the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar saw the handwriting on the wall, did you observe that Daniel did not say anything? He didn't need to go to God to pray. Daniel came out and they told him what he didn't need to pray. He told the king, keep your reward. This is the meaning of what's on there. That means this guy had moved into the realm of the spirit and he could comprehend it better. And that, I believe, is what the Holy Spirit expects of us to grow. That the Daniel we saw in chapter 1, and we saw Daniel towards the end of the reign of the king of Babylon, was an astronomically smart guy who could stand and clear-cut give you interpretation without even going to pray or seek any heavenly intervention.
Thank you for listening to David Institute Premium Masterclass Podcast.